Morning, how are you? Well, it's chilly. I want my money back. I wanted a spring and it's being compromised. So the sun just came out, but it's supposed to rain and snow today and be cold, and it's a little cold. This is Earth Day. This is a day to celebrate the planet and to think about how to protect it. I don't know if you're familiar with the notion of the tragedy of the commons. And in my mind, it's necessarily linked with population growth. And it goes a little bit like this. Say you have a pasture. Imagine the Boston Commons, although originally this notion was describing a place in England. And there's a cow out there in the pasture. And no limits, no laws or anything. And, the more people move into the area, more farmers, they put more cattle out on the commons, and then pretty soon it's overcrowded, and then it's eaten down and it's not available to anyone. The tragedy of the commons. Allocation of limited resources. So in a world in which we just love multiplying ourselves and can't imagine having one child or two, if you want a child, and I only have one daughter, so I'm within this rule. But maybe even one is too much when our population is so large. And that's the tragedy of the commons. Going after limited resources. Going after more dangerous resources because the resources that we use that are acceptable are too few. And starting with the Industrial Revolution, what do? We turn to fossil fuels, and that's released carbon emissions into the atmosphere, compromising the atmosphere, heating it up. And so politicians who are unconcerned about the environment have always called it climate change. But think about it. The rhetoric is it's really global warming. So we change it so it's vaguer and uncertain and maybe, cuttable in some way or other. And as we limit the supply of fossil fuels and the energy companies resist movement toward renewables, the sunlight, the wind, the creation of better and stronger batteries, more fuel efficient vehicles, ones we need, some run on solar power, if you will, by having batteries across America that you can plug into. So we have this battle between the fossil fuels and the future of the world, literally. And we dropped out of the Paris Accords and lost that time to be making a difference to recover the earth, to make it healthier for us to be healthy with it. And our destinies are tied together, one to the other. We have to think of ourselves as not as dominating something we can't, but as being a partner, a part of, united with nature. Jefferson had this notion of usufruct, and what it really meant, it was a legal term, was that when we get this legacy of the earth and its bounty, if you will, and we get to use it, we use fructus, the fruit, that when we're done with it, we leave it as we found it. That's certainly not happening. That is not happening. And in the years ahead, what oil was in the last century in terms of how available it was, water is going to be the problem in this century. And it's going to be the problem because we compromise it in every direction. I've been to Antarctica, and I've seen the tiny krill that feed the whales, that keep that life cycle going. But the waters are being filled with icy water as the ice masses break up. And we are putting pressure on the krill because now we're harvesting it. And it's the fish sauces, tablets that you have in the morning to take care of you. Well, now the whales are not getting all of that. And so we're compromising the entire ecosystem. And what are we going to do about it? Well, we're in a position now where Biden is taking it seriously. And he's literally meeting with world leaders today talking about this subject. And so it's back on the table that we're going to do something about it, encourage alternative sources and so forth. But the notion of, pulling gases up by shattering the earth and drawing out the gases even as we pump poisons in that affect our water system, the notion of rising waters on the seas from shrinking glaciers and ice masses, meaning salt water is coming inland, compromising farmland. The challenges to our ecosystem are there's so many, and we don't seem to address them. Individually we can do things, but it will only matter if everybody does them. When I was 40, I became a vegan, and I'm still a vegetarian because I call myself a vegetarian because I do have cheese products or milk products in my coffee and stuff like that. But it's a healthy way to live, and is also good for the environment. And frankly, when you see what we're throwing into the ocean and compromising it, which is one of the lungs of the world, we're putting at risk, even during our lifetimes, not to mention what we may or may not pass on to others, we're putting at risk our ability to breathe and live. Another thing, we burn the rainforest and we release carbon emissions into the atmosphere, but we also have eliminated by these trees and photosynthesis the oxygen that is another lung of the earth. So the world has several lungs, more than our human bodies does, but two of them are at serious risk: the seas and the rainforest. And what do we cut the rainforest down for? Wood. We cut it down for pasture. What is wrong with us? There was a young lady, brilliant, from school up at Columbia, and she had never heard about these problems in 1969. And then when she was told about them, she panicked. Why aren't we doing something about it? And here we are, these many years later, and we're still scratching our heads and not doing very much about it. The tragedy of the commons is all about us, and we owe it to ourselves and to our children and other relations, if you don't have children, to get this right. And we're not trying. And we have to do more than try. We have to make a real serious effort. And at least in this administration, I think we're going to see that. But it takes more than a single government. It takes more than a few people who believe in it to make a difference. So here I am, and on Earth Day, in the middle of my trees on a dirt road, and I'd like this to be here a long time. I know this one is even going to be compromised. Some people want to pave it and build their dream next to this road. Well, that's the way it is. So be well, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.